Car wiring diagrams are essential for anyone who works on cars. They are like roadmaps for your car's electrical system. These diagrams show you how all the electrical components in your car are connected. Understanding these diagrams can help you diagnose electrical problems, install new accessories, and even troubleshoot issues. Whether you're a seasoned mechanic or a DIY enthusiast, knowing how to read a car wiring diagram is a valuable skill. Imagine trying to navigate a new city without a map. That's what it's like trying to work on your car's electrical system without a wiring diagram. It can be confusing and frustrating. A wiring diagram provides a visual representation of the electrical circuits in your car. It shows you where each wire goes, what components it connects to, and what color it should be. With a wiring diagram, you can easily trace the flow of electricity through your car's system. This can help you identify the source of electrical problems, such as a blown fuse or a broken wire. You can also use a wiring diagram to install new electrical components, such as a stereo or an alarm system. In short, car wiring diagrams are essential tools for anyone who wants to understand, diagnose, or modify their car's electrical system. They're like having an X-ray vision for your car's electrical system. Car wiring diagrams can seem daunting at first glance, but they are not as complicated as they appear. They use a combination of color coding and symbols to represent different components and connections. Once you understand the basics, you'll be able to read a wiring diagram like a pro. Color coding is used to identify different types of wires. For example, red wires are often used for power, black wires for ground, and green wires for signal. There are also standard color codes for specific components, such as the battery, alternator, and starter. In addition to color coding, wiring diagrams use symbols to represent different electrical components. For example, a battery is represented by a rectangle with a plus and minus sign, a fuse is represented by a rectangle with a squiggly line, and a switch is represented by a line with a break in it. By learning the color codes and symbols used in wiring diagrams, you'll be able to identify the different components in your car's electrical system and understand how they are connected. Let's look at some real-world examples of how car wiring diagrams are used. Suppose you are having trouble with your car's headlights. You can use a wiring diagram to trace the flow of electricity from the battery to the headlights. First, you would locate the battery on the diagram. Then, you would follow the wire from the positive terminal of the battery to the fuse box. From there, you would find the fuse that corresponds to the headlights. If the fuse is blown, you would replace it. If the fuse is not blown, you would continue to follow the wire from the fuse box to the headlight switch. You would then check the switch to make sure it is working properly. If the switch is working, you would follow the wire from the switch to the headlights themselves. Another common use for car wiring diagrams is installing new electrical components. Let's say you want to install a new car stereo. You would use a wiring diagram to identify the wires that need to be connected to the stereo. You would also use the diagram to determine the correct gauge wire to use and the best location to mount the stereo. By following the wiring diagram carefully, you can ensure that the stereo is installed correctly and that it works properly. Section 4. Navigating the maze. Tips and tricks for understanding wiring diagrams. Here are some tips and tricks to help you navigate car wiring diagrams with ease. First, start with the basics. Familiarize yourself with the basic symbols and color codes used in wiring diagrams. Next, trace the flow of electricity. Use your finger or a highlighter to trace the flow of electricity from the battery to the component you are interested in. Third, break it down. If the diagram seems overwhelming, break it down into smaller, more manageable sections. Also, use a multimeter. A multimeter is a handy tool that can be used to test for voltage, continuity, and resistance. This can help you diagnose electrical problems and verify that your connections are correct. Don't be afraid to ask for help. If you get stuck, don't be afraid to ask for help from a more experienced mechanic or electrician. And finally, practice makes perfect. The more you work with wiring diagrams, the more comfortable you will become with them. By following these tips and tricks, you can make the task of understanding car wiring diagrams much less daunting. Section 5. Beyond the basics. Advanced concepts and applications of wiring diagrams. Once you have a good understanding of the basics, you can start to explore some of the more advanced concepts and applications of car wiring diagrams. For example, You can learn how to use a wiring diagram to troubleshoot complex electrical problems, such as a short circuit or an open circuit. You can also learn how to modify existing circuits to add new features to your car, such as aftermarket lighting or a remote starter. Advanced users can delve into topics like CAN bus systems, which are used in modern cars to communicate between different electronic control units, or ECUs. Understanding CAN bus systems requires a deeper understanding of data transmission and network topologies. Whether you are a DIY enthusiast or a professional mechanic, car wiring diagrams are essential tools for anyone who works on cars. By taking the time to learn how to read and understand these diagrams, you can save yourself a lot of time, money, and frustration.